Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So, William Zepeda defeats Jaime Arboleda by a second round knockout, in which was, as you guys can guess, a pretty one-sided fight. William Zepeda did exactly what he needed to do in this occasion. Jaime Arboleda, he's campaigned at £130, losing to the likes of Chris Colbert, etc. He's a bit of a gatekeeper, I would say, and, you know, it was up to William Zepeda to get him out of there and do it in good fashion, and I felt he did that for the most part. William Zepeda's a guy who I've been watching for quite some time. I think he's an interesting addition in the lightweight division, physically strong, throws a lot of punches. In fact, I think in his fight with Jojo Diaz, he may have broken the CompuBox record for lightweight in terms of punches thrown. I may be wrong on that, but the punch output in that fight was ridiculous. He's a big dude, comes forwards, very aggressive, throws a lot of punches, and, you know, he has that style in which just drowns opponents, and that's exactly what happened to Jaime Arboleda in this fight. In the first round, I felt William Zepeda set out his stall quite early on. Very aggressive from the get-go, trying to walk down Jaime Arboleda, and that's basically what he was doing from the get-go. Arboleda was kind of backpedaling behind that orthodox stance. He was looking for his overhand right on William Zepeda, and at times throughout this short fight, Arboleda was able to land that shot on Zepeda. Zepeda was kind of at times coming in square, coming in straight lines, and Arboleda was able to time him with that overhand right. However, I got the sense in this fight that William Zepeda never really respected Arboleda's power, so he just basically walked through him. Early in the first round, Zepeda landed a southpaw straight left hand, which rocked the head back of Jaime Arboleda, and I felt the writing was on the wall that early on, to be honest. As soon as he caught that shot, it looked like he felt it. His legs stiffened ever so slightly, and you could tell early on that Arboleda, without landing something crazy, he was never going to be able to deal with the physicality, punch output, strength and power of William Zepeda. Zepeda won the first round. He was getting countered coming in. As mentioned, he was showing some defensive fragility in there, some holes in his game. He wasn't always as tight as I'd have liked him to have been in regards to his guard, but again, I just don't think he respected Arboleda's power. So he won the first rounds and won it relatively well, I would say. Round 2, he completely dominated, he completely took over. Once again, he was able to close the distance quickly on Jaime Arboleda, pushing him back, pushing him against the ropes. In these moments, I liked how Zepeda was varying his attacks. Zepeda's a guy who sometimes he'll lead with the jab to set up his offense, but sometimes he'll just lead with power shots. I like how he keeps his opponents guessing. Very rarely he throws the same combination twice, but he does lead with combinations. Sometimes it's the southpaw right hook, followed by the left-hand uppercut. Sometimes it's the 1-2. Sometimes he'll even lead with body shots and things like that. He changes up his entries and how he initiates attacks, and he was doing that throughout this fight. Round 2, he upped the pace, pushed Arboleda back, and landed flurries of combinations on him. He dropped him initially with a combination which started to the head, came down to the body. Arboleda went down with a body shot. At this point in time, Zepeda smelt blood. Once again, not smothering his work, which I really liked. He had Arboleda on death's door, basically. You know, Arboleda was ready to go. Sometimes in these moments, you'll see guys crowd their own work and not get their distancing correct. However, in this fight, Zepeda made space for himself without crowding his own work. He lands another combination on Arboleda. Once again, those combinations finish with body shots, some real thudding body shots. Once again, Arboleda goes down, feeling the pace, feeling the aggression, feeling the power. Arboleda beats the count once again, but you can tell he's done. You can tell he's done. He's in retreat mode. Zepeda walks him down. Once again, combination, finishing with body shots, and Arboleda goes down and he can't beat the count. He was actually on the ground for 30 or 45 seconds or so. So yeah, I mean, it was a one-sided fight. William Zepeda basically had it all his own way, and he got rid of him. He got rid of Arboleda in double quick fashion, which is good. A couple of fights in the past I've seen from Zepeda, he has kind of, you know, sometimes he'll fight down to the level of his opposition, in my opinion. We saw that in the fight with Luis Angel Vidas. He actually got dropped in that fight. Also against Rani Alvarado. I was expecting a bit more in that fight. I know Alvarado is tough, but again, I expected a bit more from Zepeda. But when Zepeda's on it, he looks like a difficult proposition for many lightweights, in my opinion. Arboleda got smoked, you know, Arboleda got destroyed. In his last fight, he completely dominated Jojo Diaz in a much better fashion than someone like Devin Haney. And of course, not so long ago, he beat Hector Tanahara, who was an unbeaten prospect going into that fight. And William Zepeda just destroyed him. He really did. When Zepeda is on song, when he's on form, he's a dangerous fighter. He's a dangerous proposition for many lightweights, in my opinion. And he's certainly a top contender in my estimations. I want to see him back out again against a higher level of opponents now. I saw Fight Film's video on this. I saw his post-fight review, and he mentioned Isaac Cruz. I think that'll be a great fight. A really, really fan-friendly fight. William Zepeda versus Isaac Cruz. Zepeda has the size, but Isaac Cruz fights out of that crouch. Covers up well. He can punch with you. He's got power. Zepeda versus Cruz would be a great, great fight. It really would be. It'd be a great fight. I think Zepeda's in a good position right now. Lightweight is kind of up in the air right now, and what I mean by that is, of course, Devin Haney holds all of the titles. He is fighting Lomachenko coming up. I have a suspicion if he wins that fight, he'll more than likely vacate those titles and go to 140. If that does happen, Zepeda's in a really good position to maybe fight for one of those vacant titles. And, you know, looking at the top 10, I believe there are guys he can beat. A guy like George Kambosos Jr., for example, I believe he's live against Isaac Cruz. I think he could win that fight. In fact, I'll probably favour him to beat Isaac Cruz, to be honest. I'd probably favour him over Frank Martin as well. Frank Martin's a good boxer, but I think I'd favour Zepeda's output right now. In regards to the elite of the elites, I think Zepeda comes unstuck when he fights a puncher, a guy with timing. I actually think Tank Davis is probably a bad matchup for him. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I mean, Tank doesn't like output, as we know, but Zepeda's going to leave so many gaps and openings for Tank to land his power shots. I'd suspect Zepeda gets knocked out in that fight. However, I will say this. I actually think Zepeda matches up quite well with Devin Haney. We saw how Devin Haney struggled with Jojo Diaz's pressure, and his pressure is more methodical. Jojo Diaz throws nowhere near the amount of punches as William Zepeda. Plus, William Zepeda is much, much bigger. He's much stronger. He hits a lot harder, and he's fresher as well. Plus, he's a southpaw as well, which also adds another intriguing element to that potential fight. I don't think Devin Haney can get away with what he got away with against George Kambosos, for example, where he was nullifying George by holding and clinching. I'm not convinced he can get away with that against William Zepeda. And does he have the power to hurt Zepeda? I'm not convinced by that whatsoever. I think Zepeda versus Devin Haney is a really interesting fight. If Devin Haney beats Lomachenko and sticks around at 135, which I don't think he will do, but I think that's a really interesting fight. I think out of all the elite guys, I actually think Zepeda may have his biggest chance against Devin Haney. And even Lomachenko, by the way. I know that sounds like sacrilege, but the guy is, 35 years old? Had a long amateur career. Zepeda's a big dude, man. He's a big dude, and he throws a lot of punches with decent power. I think he'd give Lomachenko a real hard fight as well. But yeah, I mean, he's an interesting addition to lightweight in my opinion. I think he's one of the top contenders. And yeah, I'd like to see him in there with any of the top dogs right now, to tell you the truth. I've been watching Zepeda now for quite some time. In fact, going into 2022, I said that he was one of the guys that you should be looking out for in the lightweight division. I like his style, he always entertains me. None of this back foot nonsense, beta male boxing, none of that. It's aggression, it's violence, it's punch output, it's power. He's good to watch, man, and listen, he will come unstuck, no doubt about it. In fact, he could be one of those guys who comes unstuck against somebody who you don't expect him to, because he leaves so many openings in regards to defense. But bro, he's an exciting fighter, all action, and that's what we need in boxing. So listen, I'll support William Zepeda. He's a guy I can get behind, and it's interesting. He's an interesting addition at lightweight. So yeah, there's a lot of fights I'd like to see from him as of right now. There's a lot of fights. Isaac Cruz, Frank Martin, Lomachenko Haney winner, Tank, anybody. How about Jermaine Ortiz versus William Zepeda? That'll be a good fight. But anyway, share your thoughts below. What do you make of William Zepeda? How good do you think he is? And is he a threat to any of the elite guys at 135? Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.